This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is day one of Fanime Con 2022 recap summary. When I do the slideshow later, I will say something different than what I say here. So sort of like what I did with the Bacon, but not so much. Not Bacon. Sort of like what I did with the Comic Con in 2019. Whereas the slideshow was different, say different things, right? So, yeah, just change it up a little. Okay, so I have one con swag from one of the artists. It is Ang writing Appa. Yeah, and it's a representation of Appa, the bison. The cute bison, which Avatar, the last Airbender, wasn't technically anime, but it's imitating anime. There was really nobody like Macros. There were a lot of people from the newer stuff that I'm totally not familiar with walking around. Including answering a fan comment on a person from 2019 that commented on their costume was featured in the video, and adding them 3 years later. I don't know, but yeah, I'll go into like the particulars of these events and what commencement at San Jose State was going on when I went over to visit San Jose State, and there was mention of the event center, San Jose Event Center in San Jose, and the Prince concert, the artist formerly known as Prince concert. And the gag there was that Mark's cards and I were at the artist formerly known as Prince concert. So it wasn't Prince, it was the artist formerly known as Prince. So just, we didn't get in. We didn't sneak in. We claimed we did, but and the journal indicates we did, but it was more like, oh, we're standing near the event center listening to it up on the thing. It wasn't really sneaking in, no. But it sounded better in the journal. Sneaking in, yeah. No, they didn't. And Mark's cards don't even remember doing it at all. That was in the 90s. Yeah, so. Oh yeah, the Togo's is gross. That Togo's over there is gross. The tea place next door is okay. They've changed hands at the tea place again. It's some other place now. Yeah, but it kind of acts like a Quickly. It acts like what came after it. They decided to have it there, not at the other place. It was the event center. Maybe there weren't as many students because of the graduating because of the COVID or something. They were able to pull it off. They didn't tear down both of those halls on the side, it turns out. They just tore down the big field and moved the AS house, the old AS house, somewhere else. So they could build a tower next to the other two buildings. They tore down something, but it wasn't directly Sweeney Hall. They renamed the Query Lowry Hall. Lynn Lowry, years ago. I don't know why, but okay. I didn't know. I didn't know that particular Lowry. I was thinking of a different person. Yeah, it's a different person. That they wouldn't have named it the other Professor Lowry because that wouldn't have made sense. She wasn't there that long. So that wasn't her. They named it after somebody else. Yeah, there were. It started out before the 2 o'clock hour when things actually started. People started to stream in, and there were hundreds of people, 600, 800 people or about. It got more crowded. It started to get pretty packed. The line con actually wasn't there when I first arrived. And I went right in, but the line cons were there afterward by 11:30. There were line cons for me. Kitty Key, Cowpoke and Kitty Key were the characters. Cowpoke was first, and actually he wasn't there at all. The appeared briefly. Pseudo Kitty Key later on, but only in the noon hour. So Marcel Sportist took over. There wasn't a lot of dialoguing and stuff on this particular take, just because it would have been odd for him to stop and start talking randomly about shit. It didn't make sense. But yeah, somebody did leave their stuff at a table, and I drank one of them uchai tea, ichai teas. It wasn't the oolong version. It was the other version, like Thai tea or something. Yeah, it didn't have pot or nothing in it. Well, they couldn't do the band, so they made the band thing karaoke. Some people did karaoke that was rather awful. Some of it was okay, but they kept saying don't make fun of them. I didn't, but yeah, some of it was pretty bad. Yeah, why don't you do Macross 7 and do the song from... It's like, I would destroy that song if I did the American version of that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do Firebomber. I'm not going to do that. But I thought about it for a few seconds, and then thought, they're not. They won't even get it. They'll be like, oh, that guy's really old. 90s or something. Oh, and the panels were hard to find, because apparently the other help didn't know where things were. You go downstairs and they'd be, oh, we don't know where that is. It's upstairs. And it was actually hidden in the alcove in the where they had Crunchyroll movies. That's where the panels are. So, oh, that next time, tomorrow, they're going to be down there in the Crunchyroll section, which is now owned by Sony, so they would call it Sony instead of Crunchyroll. There were quite a few heavy-set people there, because the co-ed, they couldn't get out exercise. There were quite a few skinny people too. Quite a few very scantily clad that were not filmed, because so YouTube won't flag us. But yes, so yeah, but yeah, so no, Fanime, but I was calling it Comic-Con, it's Fanime. But yeah, the artist alley was odd because they turned the lights down, except for the back part where the sun was coming in. That was probably only, so the lights were turned down, so you kind of couldn't tell what you were looking at, which was funny. The artist alley, they're gonna have to fix that tomorrow. Also, yeah, they didn't want people taking pictures in there, which for some stuff is understandable, for others is not. If they're just like trinkets and things, and you want to take a picture of the trinkets. They're not going to be able to take cell phone pictures and steal their prints or something. That's not going to happen. Yeah. So, also there was the consent costuming is not consent policy is stricter. But the mask policy, everybody's masked up because of the COVID. So everybody's got a mask. You sometimes can't tell if they said yes or not. So, yeah. Or no or not. So you have to wait for the nonverbal that isn't there, because their mouth is covered. So, yeah. But I suppose if they walk away, then get their picture. Yeah, so, yeah. At the end of the con, I went to a panel called contrary opinion in anime, where basically it was a Q&A that would have been similar to mine, and it would have been a Q&A, and basically people went up and said their contrary opinion, kind of thing. They did not go into politics. They said they did not go into hate speech. They didn't. They pulled these rules before they went up there, and mentioned several animes that were not that some people I assume liked. About half the time, the opinion wasn't contrary, and the other audience agreed. They kept mentioning this one anime that apparently everybody thought sucked. So that wasn't a contrary opinion. It was no. If they all thought it sucked. And there was this other one that had like an earlier version of the anime that was better than in the 90s than it was in the 2010s. And, so better in the 90s than it was in 2000 in the 2010s. I think it's the same one. Hunter x Hunter was the name of it. I never heard of it. I've heard of Vampire Hunter D, but I bet they haven't. I heard old school stuff, so I didn't mention anything. I could have mentioned could have gone up there and said, okay, here's a contrary opinion. The American version of Robotech isn't superior to the Japanese version. Because Rick Hunter doesn't get left behind. He's not even in the Japanese one. But they probably would have agreed with that, so I didn't ask it. I didn't say that, because I figured they probably know that. In the Japanese version of Massive Beta, New Generation, Massive Beta, Space Glamour, yeah, there is no cliffhanger at the end, because they weren't related, and Hunter's Expedition wasn't there. So, yeah. It was funny at that, negative opinions in the anime panel when they addressed the bizarre relationships and soap opera nature of anime. And how sometimes they'll have like a really old 50-something dude and a 25-year-old girl in it. Or sometimes it'll be, a lot of time it'll be set in high school where they have powers, and then some of them don't, depending on whether they're main characters or not. If they're just side characters, they're interchangeable. Yeah. But that's not a contrary view, though. That's what they do. So that's not a contrary view. So they're very much like a soap opera. Tenchi Muyo from back in the 90s was very much a soap opera. It's a love triangle thing. Macross was kind of a soap opera, too. Not so much, a little bit in the second one, Southern Cross. Not so much in the third one, Generation. Cowboy Bebop was kind of a soap opera, but an action one. Yeah, so, but not the Netflix one. They mentioned that. I didn't see the Netflix one, so I don't know how bad it is. But yeah, so yeah, the Fanime so far, and when I left, there were thousands more trying to lining up to go in the lines. I think part of the problem with the line thing, though, is that they don't explain to the ones that already have a ticket. There's a sign, like right there, that said there should have been a sign, or other people walking back and forth saying, you don't have to get into the 3 lines to get into the building if you've already got a ticket. You can just go in through the side door. There should be a sign that says that, because I think a lot of those people are waiting in that line to get in. They don't have to. They can go in. Because once you got one of these, the badge, putting in some gigantic new building near San Jose State where the thing was. Oh, then they tore down that theater. You'll see it in the previews here. There's a Century 12 theater where they played the John Waters movies, and the last thing they played was Boyhood in 2012. It was open for about 10 years. They used to do Cinequest there, the local cinema, our version of cons, Cinequest basically. Yeah, our version of cons in San Jose, and a con festival. Cons. It's French. Cannes. Cons, or con perhaps. So this is a commentary on day one, commenting mostly on destroyed building, that they're rebuilding is something else. It's like, the building was originally another building that they rebuilt into it, so they're tore it down to the superstructure and they're messing around inside it. But it's still the same, basically the same building, I think. There was nothing going on in the hotel. Yeah. That's a commentary on day one, pretty much. I'm going to go and watch the slideshow now and to comment on that. Day one, so far, is Friday, usually half a day, really. So, yeah, nothing much happened. I took an Uber. I chased the Uber on the way out, down the road. Chased the yes. He didn't stop her. I don't want to say it wrong because I might be saying something dirty, and know, yeah. Anyway, next up. So, yeah, that's my review. Then I'm going to watch the slideshow and say different things.